Hey guys, this is Alexander Dorr doing a tutorial for aetutsplus.com, and today's quick tip is all about linking some audio stuff together with some form layers with some cool form effects, and all in After Effects. So we're gonna preview the effect with a loop I got from Soundroll on Audio Jungle. Of course, you can do this with every other music track. And we're gonna take a look quickly at everything now. So let's render a few frames more and let's take a look.
Flashed in.
Okay, so let's go forward to maybe 10 frames and render forward a bit so that you see a bit motion in the animation. And
Flashed in. Flashed in.
so that looks pretty good, and the important thing is we didn't do anything in a 3D program. So in a real 3D program as a Cinema 4D or 3ds Max. So we do everything in After Effects, and as you see there aren't much layers, so it isn't much to it. First thing we're gonna and also the animation you got pretty much depends on how good your soundtrack is. So if you got much speech on it, I would prefer maybe splitting them up or buying a karaoke version of the track, because it's much easier for After Effects to analyze the version without speech. So first thing we're gonna do is take the loop and go to drag it onto this symbol. We'll make it 16 bits per channel, and next thing we're gonna do is right click on this and go to keyframe assistance, convert audio to keyframes. And what that basically does, it pretty much analyzes the whole track, the whole audio track, and gives us a bunch of keyframes for the left channel and for the right channel. And we also got a kind of both together and divided by 2, and this gives us this number here. So for example, we can choose that these lines here should react to the audio of the left channel, and these should react to the audio of the right channel. But because this is just a preview, we want to leave it for both channels because there is a change, but it's best to just work with the both channels keyframes. So we're gonna delete our left and right channel keyframes by selecting them with Shift and then hitting delete on your keyboard. And next thing we're gonna do is set up a quick little environment by creating a new black solid. Choose effect, generate ramp. There it is, and I'm gonna make a radial ramp, and start color is something like this. I'm gonna make it a bit orangish, something like this, and end color is something like a really dark gray. Make this a bit darker. This looks pretty good. And next thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna move this up a bit, and then we're going to turn up the ramp scatter till it looks pretty smooth. So I'm going to turn this up to, let's say, 190 maybe, and move this down again a bit. So that looks pretty smooth, and move that up a bit, maybe. Pretty good. Make this a bit darker. Okay, and so make this a bit darker. And here we got our basic environment. And next thing we're gonna create is this really abstract thing here in the middle. don't know, maybe it's crystal, or yeah, you can do pretty much everything you want with just a few clicks. So if we go into this and choose contents, and there's some I think in English it's called wiggle paths and pucker and bloat animators on it. And if we remove them, we see it's a pretty basic, just a line which is scaled down actually. So if we scale up, you see it's that basic. So let's undo this. There we have a kind of a reference point, and let's start creating this thing. And let's lower the opacity of this. Blend with original, maybe 10 or so to make it a bit just a touch darker. And the next thing we're gonna do is make sure that you haven't got selected any layer here, and we're gonna select the pen tool or hit G to get the pen tool, and then we're gonna click and we're gonna hold shift and we click again, and this gives us a pretty basic shape. We're gonna go to fill and set the opacity to 0. Okay, because we don't need this actually. And then we go to stroke, and we're gonna choose linear gradient. This gives us kind of a cool oranges. This will give us a cool orangish gradient. I'm gonna make this a bit bigger. Let's see what we did here. 30 pixel, pretty good. Okay, and let's click on this kind of little gradient here to go into the gradient editor and edit some gradients. And we're gonna make this pretty orangish, and this let's make it orange too, but a bit darker. Okay, pretty good. And the reason why we don't see anything here is we didn't edit the right shape. So make sure you selected the right shape when you start editing it, because that way you really take care of not doing some things 2 times. So make this dark. And the reason why we don't see anything is because our gradient is kind of crazy now. So we're gonna move this point there and this one there, and here you see it's kind of a gradient, but we're gonna adjust this later. So now go to the shape layer, click on the little arrow here and choose add and wiggle paths, and we're gonna move into wiggle paths and wiggle it pretty much. Let's see what we did here. It was 49. So let's choose 49, and maybe we're gonna lower the wiggles per second a bit to get a bit kind of more slowly animation. And then I'm gonna choose add pucker and bloat, and gonna move this down. Yeah, well, wait, we're gonna move this there. That's right. And we're gonna move this up, this value. So I'm gonna take a look at what we chosen there. It was kind of 63 or so, but this will change later, because as you see here we got a pretty smart expression on it, which yeah, it pretty much depends on what kind of animation you're planning to do. So if we now play it back, it gives us a cool effect here. It looks kind of 3D, and we can maybe make the stroke, make it a bit smaller. And also, if you like really minimalistic things here, really detailed, you can maybe choose 3 and then play around with these settings, and you get some really cool abstract results, which also look kind of 3D. So, but for now we gonna choose 30 pixel, and we gonna go good with 10, and we're gonna hit U to get our keyframes there, and we're gonna hit Alt click on the amount. Let's see, move down again, Alt click on the amount, and we're gonna type in value plus bracket, or actually we can remove the bracket because we only have one value here, and then we gonna choose this pick whip here, and we're gonna choose this here, and we're gonna choose parentheses 2, multiply with 2, sorry. And as you see, it kind of does crazy things, and that's because we had a little problem. So as you see, we got a slider here with values between 6 and maybe 11 there. I saw 10 maybe, and multiplied by 2, this is 20, and we want to have kind of like 600 here. So what we're gonna do is move this up until we get something like 600, and this way we got some much better looking results. And we can only do this because we typed in here value plus this, because if we only link this together, we won't be able to change this now. So let's go up a bit to 535 maybe, and that looks pretty cool. But that's only the first part, and next thing we're gonna do is go to transform shape, and we're gonna unlock the scale, and yeah, okay, we're gonna close this, and then we're gonna alt click on the scale, and this time we're gonna type in value plus bracket 0 for the first value here, because we want this to be 100, comma, and now we again take the pick whip tool kind of thing there, and we're gonna go to the slider, and we're gonna choose multiplied by 2 comma 2.5, and we're gonna close the bracket, and that's pretty cool because now we got some keyframing going on the scale. And let's see what we got here. We did pretty much the same. We went into form 1, transform, and we did something like, I think, oh sorry, 2.6 here, and we also and I also subtracted 10, and our basic value was 132. So let's do kind of the same thing here. 100, and here we got 32, which basically makes it a bit smaller, and we divided it by 2.6. And I just want to create the same effect as I did before, but of course you can play around with these values, so you don't have to go -10. You of course can do other things, but for now I'll leave it there, and then I'll hit S to bring up the whole scale, the scale for this whole layer. I'm gonna scale it down a bit to till we see it when it's big kind of thing. And another thing I did here is I choose composition settings, and I I've chosen a really wide format, so I've chosen 1920 by 540, but of course we can do this now. 540, and now readjust this crap here till it fits. Bam, bam, bam. Pretty good. Maybe make it 59 or 55 is pretty good, and this will be okay. Oh, 52 is better. best solution till now. And what we also can do is go in here, and because we chosen value -10, it also subtracted 10% here. And here we got the same problem, but this time I'm gonna make it a bit. I'm gonna maybe choose, let's see, basic value 95, and this way we got 85, and it's a bit smaller. It's not that big, or maybe 97. Okay, pretty good. Move on, straightforward. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create these lines here, and that's also pretty easy. And one thing we're gonna do before we do this is choose Effect, Stylize, Glow, and that's pretty much everything. And what we also can readjust is our gradient. So go in here and make it a bit darker there, give it a cool, really cool gradient, and go back into the gradient, choose the first one and make it a bit darker maybe, and yeah, and also turn up the glow radius and the glow threshold to maybe 50, no, sorry, 70, or no, 60 was actually good. Should leave it there. And but for now, for rendering, we'll turn off the glow, and we're gonna go in there again one last time, bring up this and move this out a bit there because it's pretty dark, and make this a bit lighter. Perfect. Okay, so now we're gonna create the little lines. And to do this, we're gonna again make sure that no layer is selected, and then hit G to select the pen tool, and then we're gonna yeah, pretty much move in 100%. By the way, hit the space bar and then drag to get this hand here, and then we click. And we're gonna hold shift and click again to get a perfect line, and we're gonna make this pretty small actually. I think I've chosen 3 here. Let's take a look. No, it was actually 25 with a blue gradient. So it was a while ago when I made this. So make a blue gradient by just adjusting this a bit. Bam. We have a cool blue gradient there. And let's see where our gradient kind of selector is. Linear gradient, make it a bit, okay, there it is. Drag it over here to give it gradient, and the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna toggle the arrow and choose add, and we gonna choose repeater, and now we're gonna choose back fit, and we're gonna make let's say 20 copies is pretty good. So I moved this, so let's go to transform reset. Pretty good actually, and it's quite a bit too big. So let's right click, choose transform, fit to comp height. I'm sorry. So it won't choose 140. So, and because we applied the effect to it, nothing happens to the gradient. So we've chosen 20 copies, and let's offset this till we get it start there. I think -3 is pretty good. And now we're gonna do a pretty cool thing with the repeater, and I really would recommend you playing around with this repeater effect also in your future project, because it has nearly unlimited possibilities, and the whole kind of shape layers here have nearly unlimited possibilities. But this transform repeater kind of preset here is pretty cool. So let's take a look at this. If you move the Y position here, it does some pretty cool things there. And if we move the X position, okay, it just moved the X position. If we scale it up, you see you get this here, which is also pretty minimalistic sometimes, and which can get you some cool results. And we can also do this kind of equalizer thing here we can do. And of course you can link this together with the same technique we use all the time in this tutorial, with some pretty simple expressions. So this way you can create pretty much any animation. But the thing we're gonna use in this tutorial is this rotation here. So we're gonna go null, and we're gonna show up our keyframes here by hitting U, and let's alt click on the rotation, and let's choose value plus, and that way we can maybe remove value, but let's type it in if you maybe adjusted something here. So let's type in value plus pick width slider, and we're gonna choose multiply by, and that's pretty much depends on how loud is your song and how hard it is, how hard you want you want to have the animation to be. So yeah, this pretty much depends on your own preferences, but for now I'm gonna choose 0,4, and I think I've chosen 0,4. Okay, 0,2, let's maybe 0,3, something like this. And this looks like crap, I know, but if you take a look at here, we scaled this down to 50. Here, this one is the left hand side thing. We're gonna scale this down to 50, and that's exactly what we gonna do now. So we're gonna go into this layer here, hit S to bring up the scale down to 50, bam. And what we also want to do is go to contents, hit add, and choose bucker and bloat. No, this looks also cool, but we want to choose, sorry, some crazy things here in the English version. We want to choose, let's see, take a look what we chosen here. We've chosen a thing called offset paths. So we're gonna choose this here too. Offset paths, pretty good. And we're gonna choose 850, something like 840 or so. Say it gives us some pretty cool results. Choose, yeah, you can choose between bevel join or mirror join. And next thing I'm gonna do is go into shape, and we're gonna scale the shape itself down, because this isn't actually what we want to have. And that looks pretty good here this way. And one thing I forgot to do is lock the background. So as you see, it's pretty much the same we did here. We went to form, scaled it down to 20, and the whole thing was scaled down to 50, and yeah, that's pretty much what we did here. So let's move this maybe to this position there. Take a look at the repeater if everything is okay here. Can maybe no, 100 was pretty good. We're gonna move this on the right side, and we're gonna maybe decrease the number of copies to 15, or 17 is good. As you see, it gives us some pretty cool results here already. Let's use 815, or maybe make it. Let's maybe make it 718. Pretty good. So till now everything worked pretty good. We have this animated, and now we want to simply duplicate it and hit S for scale. And before we scale it, we want to hit Y to adjust the anchor point, which is in a crazy direction here. So we want to move the anchor point to the middle of our comp. So hit tile action, bring up the tile action save and bring it in the middle. And we want to unlock this and hit change this to -50 and again lock this. And we will move this on the right side and this on the left side a bit, and so readjust this, bring this up here, there, and we're also gonna select both layers and bring it behind them, behind our abstract layer. So I'm gonna take this and move it to this side. This is pretty good. Fit up to 100. Okay, and now we can deactivate the tile action save again. And if you notice you haven't got enough copies, feel free to add some more. But in my case, I think everything worked fine. Okay, so it's a good point to save now. And it's also a good point to again go into this and turn off offset path and repeater and move in maybe 200%. Take a look at our little thing here, 200% and scale it up a bit just to see what our gradient does, and maybe make it just a bit more like that. And of course it's good, but you have to have this done good at the very beginning, but you have to play around with that. Yeah, that way it looks pretty awesome. And now we have to apply some effects to it. So we're gonna go to the we're gonna select both layers and choose effect glow again, and that lets it glow. And we're gonna, with both layers selected, we're gonna choose effect, blur and sharpen, and we're gonna say fast blur or box blur. It's also awesome. And we're gonna choose 4 or maybe 5. We're gonna T and bring the opacity down to 95 maybe. Lower the box blur to 4,5, and that's pretty cool. And we're gonna turn our glow back on here, and as you see, we could have this rotating the whole kind of thing, and because we typed in value, you can readjust this basically, but you have to notice that then in the start it is kind of crazy. So what you can do is you can choose multiply by 0,5 as you see, and that way we have it rotating the whole way sometimes. So I'm gonna choose 0,4. And here I'm going to choose, I have to change this here too, 0,4 is pretty good. And last thing we can do is go into that and choose contents, offset paths, and maybe choose 820. And here we're going to do the same thing. I'm gonna go into that, contents, offset path, 820. So we have to play around with that a bit. We have to go into the expressions and see how it looks when we hit play, and then we have to readjust maybe the expressions, maybe change some of the values here. So let's render out that a bit. I hope you're able to hear the sound of my the sound of After Effects. And let's take a look at the nearly finished animation. You see here we got some pretty cool rotation there. Okay, so let's play that back.
Flashed in.
Okay, that looks pretty decent, but we can turn this up on the scale to 2.9 maybe. And we can go there and turn this down to 0.3 maybe. That's totally okay. And last thing I want to do is no, not last thing, but one of the last things is turn on motion blur for them. Of course this makes rendering pretty slow, but we can also move those two backwards a bit, because so we have kind of a time here where nothing is going on. Okay, and also one thing I think I did here is no, I didn't. But if you have a really hard track with pretty much going on, but you want really to have it animated, you can go to Window with your keyframes you selected. You can go to Window and choose Smoother, and here choose maybe tolerance 2 or 1. You have to see if it's synchron if you choose 2, and then click apply, and this way you get a much smoother curve. But in my case it's pretty good as we have it. So let's lower the resolution again and preview this, and while it renders I'm going to talk about the slowdown of the translated version of After Effects. No, not real, but if you do tutorials, you may notice that the English version of After Effects, if you run, for example, the German version, and if you kind of run the English version of CS4, it slows really down. So maybe it is 30% slower. I don't like that. But anyway, let's let it render till we cross the 10 or 11 seconds mark, and then take a look at it. And you see, it looks kind of like a 3D model without any 3D modeling, and these are really good possibilities you have with the shape layers. But I think there were some tutorials already which are mentioned this. So now we got 15 seconds and preview it.
Flashed in. Flashed in.
So now that we have the basic animation, I want to give you an idea of what you can also do with our technique, and we're gonna add some more things. Basically there are just 2 more things to do. First, we're gonna link this glow to our audio, so when this abstract thing here gets bigger, our glow radius also gets bigger. And the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna insert a logo. In our case it's the AE Tuts Plus logo. So let's take a look and see what we're gonna be creating.
Flashed in.
Okay, pretty good.
Flashed
Here
in.
we got our logo, and as you see the glow reacts to our animation. So let's get started, and first delete the logo so that we can start from scratch. And now first thing we're gonna do is link our glow radius, and to do that we're gonna hit Alt and click on the stopwatch, and we're gonna type in the same expression we typed in a few times right after we brought up our keyframes here by hitting U. And we're gonna make some space here to get nice to work with, nice space, and we're gonna type in value. So value is equal to this value here plus, And then I'm gonna take the pick whip tool and move it down, and we're gonna select a slider, and then we're gonna type in maybe multiply by 2. And what this expression basically says it takes this value we typed in the beginning, which is 8, and it adds to this value the value of our audio amplitude here, which is right now 5,28. So it takes 8 and it adds this value, which is right now 5,28, and then it multiplies this value with 2, and what gives us what the number it gives us then is 18,6. So for example, now it's 18,6. If we turn up our first value up to 10, it is 20,6. But for now we're gonna leave it at 8, and we're gonna take a look at the some louder kind of sections here in our track where this gets really big, and we can see our glow extends to 60 in our case. And the only problem is in the beginning our glow is pretty small actually, if there is glow, so it's 8, it's not that much. And that's because our audio amplitude isn't there, because we wanted to have this kind of flat line here when we start. So what we can do is hit the stopwatch to keyframe this, and move this keyframe a bit forward, and then type in maybe 20. So we got our nice blur, and when it starts we want to have it at 8, so we move our 8 keyframe at this point here, and you see not that much, but when it starts it isn't as high as it would be if we have typed in 20. So that looks pretty good, and this is really an advantage of this kind of expression with the value parameter in front of it. So now we've got our glow radius linked to our abstract kind of object here in After Effects. We just want to add a quick logo in the end of our animation, and in our case it's the AE Tuts Plus logo, and we're gonna bring it in. I'm gonna delete this adjustment layer, which was from a test I did, and because we have a Adobe Illustrator file here, you can hit this little sun, which basically makes it scalable over 100%. You see there aren't any pixels if we go to 100%, because it's vector. So let's make it 100% again, and we move in 200% here in our viewport, and we're gonna take the rectangle mask tool, and we're gonna draw a mask around the first part here, and now we're gonna hit P to bring up our position keyframes. We're gonna make this a bit bigger, and we gonna make a keyframe here. I'm gonna move this forward to maybe, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so. And go back, and we're gonna move this all the way up. And now let's go to this keyframe, and we're gonna do kind of the same thing. We're gonna use the page down, page up keys to go a few frames forward. In our case, I would take 5 frames, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're gonna go 250, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 270, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 255, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 270, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 260, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 270, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 265, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and sorry, I'm gonna make it, see what we got here again, 1 2 3 4 5. I'm gonna make it 270, and we're gonna select them all and hit F9 or go right click Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease, and then we're gonna turn on motion blur and take a look at the animation. Actually, the Easy Ease Keyframe Assistant gives us a cool fluid and kind of bumping animation, and I think that will look pretty good. That looks awesome, pretty good. And what we now can do is simply duplicate this, hit M to bring up the mask, and choose for the mask blending mode, for the mask mode subtract. And now we're gonna hit U on our first and U on our second. So we're gonna name the first AE and the second one Toots Plus, and we're gonna move this back in time just a bit. And let's preview this now. And as you see, to focus on our logo, one last thing is missing, and we're gonna do this one last thing right after we have our logo in the correct position. And this last thing is basically to blur the background out a bit when our logo comes in. So it rendered, hit 0.
Flashed in.
This looks pretty good, and from now on we're gonna do a new layer, adjustment layer, and we're gonna bring it below our AE layer. We're gonna choose Effect, Blur, and Sharpen, Fast Blur, or maybe you can choose Box Blur, but in this case I'm gonna choose Box Blur, bring up the keyframes of our AE thing here. Gonna move one keyframe behind this, and we're gonna keyframe up blurriness, and then we're gonna move at the end and type in maybe 11. And it gets a bit bad here at the corners, and to fix that we're gonna enable repeat edges, and I think that looks pretty good. It gets blurred out. Maybe we can even make this Easy Ease and choose 12 for the blurriness. So choose Keyframe Assistant Easy Ease. Okay, you to make them disappear. And yeah, I think this gives us a pretty cool idea of what you can do with this technique. And I think there are some possibilities to create really cool and outstanding motion graphics with music, with pretty simple expressions and just a bit form layers, shape layers, I'm sorry. And last thing I did in my example is I added another adjustment layer and put a curves effect on it. And I went to the blue channel and cranked this up a bit. So if I turn this off and on, you see it kind of gives it a retro feeling. And what we also can do, we can make this, give it a little bit contrast. That was too much. Kind of this contrasty thing here, or you can go up here and down there, as you like it. I think that looks pretty good. And one last thing you also could do, if you want to have it really glowing, you can add a glow on our last adjustment layer and play around with these settings here. So we can make it that way, and maybe turn off the blur on our other layers, and this also looks pretty good, but I would just start blending this blur in when our logo comes in. So for now I'm going to delete it. Hope you had fun in this tutorial. For me it was a good one. I hope it helped you out, and I hope you can use it in some more advanced situations in the future. And my name is Alexander. Goodbye.